Welcome to the Practically Nothing podcast, where practically nothing happens, but we're entertained by it anyway. I am Dr. Bodyguard, and I'm joined here by my co-host and cohorts, really. I've got Ordo here. Say hello.
What's up?
And we are also joined now by the great and powerful Cardwiz.
Live long and prosper.
So, you bastard. So, here we are. This is episode 2 for those of you who have been watching or listening rather, I don't know, 2 or 3 people out there. And we are here. I don't even think my wife has listened yet. So we are here today to talk about something that I am extremely, extremely, extremely invested into, and I love so very much. We're here to talk about the greatest piece of fiction that's ever been introduced to the world at large. And of course, I am talking about the saga created by George Lucas. We're talking about Star Wars.
It's something that holds a lot of fond memories in my heart. The sound of lasers and the swords and all the ships and explosions and so much fun.
Light side, dark side, good versus evil, and everything that happens in between that.
And a princess that can kick ass.
Yeah.
Before we get to that, though, let's talk a little bit about what's been going on since we last recorded. I have recently been going through this anime. Not a very well-known anime. I don't think the manga sold that well. But it's called Naruto, and it's about a small, blonde-haired, blue-eyed Japanese boy who's a ninja with a 9-tailed fox sealed inside of him, and he's like, I'm gonna be a hero. And you know what? I avoided this anime for years, and it's so good. It is so good, guys. It's so good. I'm like on episode 70-something, I think, right now in season 2. There are 700 episodes of this saga, and I'm going to watch all of them. I am 100% invested in this. It's much better than Dragon Ball Z. I know for a long time people were like, Goku versus Naruto, Dragon Ball Z versus Naruto. What's the better one? And I was like, well, I like Dragon Ball Z because I like Gohan and I like Piccolo. And Naruto looks stupid because it's about kids. I was wrong, though. This show about neglectful adults torturing young children and being emotionally and physically abusive is really excellent. So I've been watching that. My wife, Cardwiz, and I have all been watching Lucha Underground as well. That is an amazing wrestling, just amazing piece of wrestling fiction out there. I guess fiction. Would you call that fiction?
It's fiction. It's some of the best storytelling you'll see on TV, I'd say. It is people telling collective stories. It's 1 hour a week of drama with some physical altercations in between.
Yeah, it's pretty great. And I've been reading some books. I'm not going to really call any book out right now because these guys won't know what the hell I'm talking about because they don't read like some kind of monsters. But that's what I've been doing right now. And I'm going to give this over to the host with the most, the ghoul from the Bool, Ordo.
Yeah, what's up? I tried doing the intro 3 times. Could not do it. Kept stumbling over my words. That's okay. Your favorite gray Jedi is here. So, what I've been doing recently, I don't know if I mentioned it last time, but I was playing Persona 5. Now I have beaten Persona 5, and it's so good.
Do you want to redo your top 5 list?
Yeah, I am, I hate to say it, after we just did our top 5, but I'm going to have to, I think I'm going to kick out Sonic 3, maybe move it down, maybe in the bottom 10, put Persona 3 as my number 3 favorite game. It does so many good things. And it may not be for everybody, but it's, I don't know, the music, the UI, the story, it's an incredible game, and I'm really glad that, I got to play it. Then after that, I started playing Nier, and then I'm also playing Tales of Berseria, kind of like back and forth, and playing a little here, a little there.
Nier Automata?
Yeah, Nier Automata.
I just want to say real quick, speaking of games, I've also been playing Final Fantasy 15, and I've come to realize it is not a good game. It's not bad per se, but you guys have played it. You've beat it, Ordo.
Yeah.
Card was just kind of taking a break from it. I spent 11 minutes driving to take a picture, and then I had to wait 20 minutes for the game to advance to sunlight after climbing a volcano to take a picture. This game is literally waiting. Ego Raptor, if I'm sure you've heard of him, had a great talk about how much waiting is a terrible mechanic for a game, and there's no world building in this. There's no real progression of characters in it and all. It sounds like the opposite of Persona, quite frankly.
What's great about Persona is that you're entering a new town, a new school, and you learn to build up these friendships and these relationships. With Final Fantasy 15, you're plopped into the middle of this road trip with your 3 best friends, and you're just sort of told, hey, these are your best friends. Here you go. Be best friends.
It does actually build later on as you're going through the game, but it feels like it's more about building your relationship with these core people than the actual world itself. After chapter 5, the game starts funneling you extremely fast towards the ending. So it honestly feels like on one end they had this thing done, and on one hand they had this thing done, and then they just kind of like bolted those together to make a singular game. I mean, it's fun. I enjoy the music, but it's very weird.
It's almost like the guy that worked on this game. This game was originally Final Fantasy 13 Versus, and that was supposed to come out like 7-8 years ago.
Not only that, but it was also supposed to be somehow intertwined with Final Fantasy 13. These were both announced, I want to say either in 2006 or 2007. And then a lot of people thought it may have become vaporware because the last trailer we had for it at the time was 2008.
And it's just like there's no story here. This doesn't even have the classic Final Fantasy save the 4 elemental crystals to defeat the invading alien force. There's not even that element here. In chapter 7, I don't care. I love the characters, these 4 characters. I love the side characters I've met and everything, but I don't care. If they died, I'll go play Overwatch because I'm more invested in Winston the gorilla than I am in these 4 knuckleheads.
My favorite part of Final Fantasy 15 was just the exploring. I loved being able to explore an open world and, I just randomly found this volcano and, there is a secret temple inside. I'm going to explore that now. It's pretty much the same reason that I loved Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, except Breath of the Wild was that the entire game. Final Fantasy 15 did not have that nearly enough. They had a few great moments of exploration, but I didn't fall in love with the characters. I didn't fall in love with the world. I just kind of enjoyed the exploration. But since I stopped playing it, I've already played another game that does the exploration 10 times better.
It's like, speaking of the exploration, it's got so many artificial walls. I absolutely hate that. It's just like, hey, you need to get over there, but we're going to put this cliff right here so that you have to go all the way around. That's artificial gameplay. It's boring. It sucks, and it's like if you don't use the chocobos, then you're not really gonna be able to explore that fast. It doesn't work for me.
But I want to ride my chocobo all day, and it's red.
Okay, that small part of that does make it a great game. We finally have lyrics for that song. Anyway, I'm sorry for that tangent. I just wanted to toss that in there.
No, it's fine. Other than that, I started watching Lucha Underground after you asked me to, and I'm 2 episodes in. I'm like, yeah, I can really dig this. Other than that, wrestling wise, I'm watching I think I'm currently in the year 2000 when it comes to Raw, and it's definitely interesting to go back and see how much they did then with less time than they do today with more time. And other than that, I've been on vacation doing nothing. So, with that said, I will now turn it over to the person that we permit on this podcast, but we do not grant him the rank of master, Cardwiz.
That's right. I am here, but I am here to stay. Once you have let me into your heart, I will steal your treasure within. After finishing up Persona 5 a little over a week ago, I took part in Sony's Golden Week sale, which had a ton of anime Japanese-inspired games. And after going from Persona 5, where you're living a school life, I decided I want another game similar to this. I'm going to play an older game that I had heard a couple of great things about, but I never got to it because I never really thought to look for it because it's sort of a obscure-ish title in the U.S. It's part of the Legend of Heroes series, which I had never really played before this one, and it is called Trials of Cold Steel. And this is only the first in the series, and the third part is actually going to come out later this year, I believe. And from what I understand, it's just going to be one really, really long story. So I'm assuming the end of Trials of Cold Steel 1 is going to have like a Fellowship of the Ring style ending where it's just like, oh, crud, the game's actually just now starting and the game's over. I'm enjoying the school life sort of thing, getting to know all your people, all your teammates, all the people, even getting to know some of the people in town just through completely optional interactions. I'm enjoying exploring the world a little bit. I'm having a good time, and I'm really enjoying the battle system, which is kind of reminding me of the 3DS game, which I really love, Dragon Ball Fusions, of moving around and your attacks take up certain areas of the map. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, I just want to point out that he sucks at this game really bad.
I'm actually really enjoying the difficulty of this game. I'm actually having to, even just low-level random encounters, I'm having to actually think about my movements, because if I let my guard down or if I don't activate a special ability at a certain time, my entire team can get knocked down, because this game is not holding back. It has enemies who will do death attacks on you and take you out no problem. Thankfully, unlike Persona, if your main guy goes down, you can still continue playing. But it is a really good challenge. I'm really loving this game so far.
That combat system for that game is what Renaissance of Fate should have been. Absolutely, 100%.
No,
Renaissance of Fate was almost an amazing game. Ugh.
Renaissance of Fate was a game that came out on the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3 a few years ago, where you played these anime-esque dudes and this girl, where you had guns, you were living in this kind of spire in the sky and everything, and you had to take these jobs on, and it was hard as hell. The combat was not intuitive. It was not easy to learn, and even after you learned it, it still wasn't easy. The fights were incredibly difficult. There was no story mode really, I guess, either. Which for me, I'm a person that, like, I know Cardwiz, he'll just go into a game and he doesn't need a story as much. However, I need to have a story. I need to have something epic. Again, that's why Final Fantasy VI works so well for me, because that story is so incredible. Jedi Outcast, it's this great Star Wars story, which we might talk a little bit more about later. And it's just that Renaissance of Fate is one of the biggest disappointments in my gaming history.
The thing with Renaissance of Fate, with that storyline, it was probably the most anime-like game I've ever played, because the first couple of episodes, the first couple of chapters of that game was like the first couple of episodes of an anime, where it's just like you're just getting to know the characters. They're doing just like sort of random things around town to help people out, and it felt like it was about to get into the first major story arc, but you couldn't really get into it because I kind of was not great at the game, and the bosses in that game had the most absurd difficulty spikes I've ever experienced in a game.
I mean,
I could not get past like the third boss. I think it was. I loved it, but I couldn't beat it. I was not good enough. I had to get good, and I did not get good. Scrub.
I easily sank 20 hours into that game. Did not get past chapter 2, and I sucked at it. I mean, that's heartbreaking. I would have designed the combat system very different. And to say that it's like, I don't think it's unfair to say that combat system didn't work and was bad, because we never saw that combat system again.
Well, the big problem with it is that you had two types of guns. Like, one gun could do damage, but then the other one could do, like, damage that made the enemy vulnerable, and then someone else could follow up with another damage gun that would, like, hurt them even more. Yeah, it sounds all right in theory, which I think, I can't think of the character's name, but he could actually dual wield, so he could actually have one gun that did damage and one gun that did, like, the sub damage or whatever it was. But the big problem with that is that you really have to grind to get that second gun. Like the very first gun you can buy cost you like 100,000 gold or whatever their currency is. It takes forever to get, and it's not even that good. It's not even better than your equipment that you currently have. I want to say maybe 25 to 30 hours in that game off and on, and it's boring.
Anyway, outside of Trials of Cold Steel, I've been in a musical, Cold Rock of Ages, which I'm having a lot of fun with. But we don't talk about musicals here unless I kidnap these guys, which will probably happen one day. I will pull a Memphis on these guys and force them to watch a musical at late night and not tell them it's actually 3 hours long.
That will never happen again.
I thought it was 4 hours. It
was 4 hours. It was 4 hours.
It was only 3.
I don't know.
No.
It felt like it came to a conclusion. We're like, oh yeah, that's great. Man, that was a pretty good musical. By the way, this is the intermission.
Heck yeah.
God. That's why you don't get to pick anything anymore.
4 a.m.
That was a good night.
Oh. That's a little bit of what we're all doing. We would have had our fourth person sled me to death here today, but due to some computer problems, he wasn't able to join us, unfortunately. Hopefully, we'll get him in soon, and when he does come in, we will be doing a catch-up point with him, so he can introduce his top 5 games and give his thoughts a little bit on today's topic. And today's topic, if you guys are good, you good?
No. I have something to say to Sled.
Oh, okay.
Uh-oh.
He could not be on this podcast. I know exactly why. He said his computer was updating, but let's face it, we know it's BS. He was probably in his kitchen putting macaroni and cheese and ketchup together, and that is disgusting, and I will not accept it. Sled, I know you're listening.
He is a Canadian, and he does do that, and it is gross. Only a child does that. So,
but moving on. Moving on from
we're gonna move on to what I feel is the greatest entertainment franchise of all time, because it's influenced so much of my own writing, the writers that I love. It's in every facet of pop culture, be it music, comics, books, movies, obviously TV, video games, manga, cosplay, even porn, and all sorts of incredible things. It inspired the world. It's its own official religion in some parts of the world. We are talking about Star Wars. Star Wars came out in the 1970s with A New Hope, and it was not expected to be a big hit. It's kind of based off the old serials of the 1920s and 30s that George Lucas was a huge fan of, and immediately it grabbed the world by the throat, and it never let go. We were introduced to Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, and Leia Organa, who were leading the rebellion to stop the insidious Darth Vader and his giant Death Star. And it rocked everyone's world. It changed how we made movies. It changed how we wrote stories. It influenced generations and generations upon. You wouldn't have Joss Whedon without it. You wouldn't have Peter Jackson. You wouldn't have Del Toro. So many people. And it for me, Star Wars all started when I was 3 years old. I was born in 1986, and sometime in 1989, 1990, we were shopping at the supermarket, and they used to sell these things called VHS tapes in bundles. And my mom was pushing the grocery cart. I just happened to reach over, grab those three tapes that were bundled together and put them in the shopping cart. She didn't notice it until the grocery bill was astronomically high, because VHS tapes were very expensive. And she's like, all right, I'm a fan. Maybe you'll like them. And from that point on till about 1994 or 5, I watched all 3 of those movies every day. I knew them by heart, and it's because of Star Wars I actually learned how to read, because I had a learning disability as a child. And Star Wars, my mom could put the movies on mute, turn on the closed captioning. I knew what they were saying. I was able to figure out how to read based on that. Star Wars just it sucked me in. And I remember my dad taking me to see the re-releases in the theaters in the mid 90s. I remember after school going to see The Phantom Menace with my mom and my brother. Four people in that theater, including the three of us, shocked me because that was the opening day. I loved it. I love the prequels. I'm just going to put that out there. The prequels are not bad, people. They're not. They're flawed, yes, but there's so much there that is still so much fun and great. Star Wars, I played the video games. I read the comic books. Like in the last year, I bought up the entire expanded universe library from the new Jedi, like from the era of Heir to the Empire trilogy and the X-Wing saga up to the new Jedi Order and all this other stuff. I am in because Disney bought it and things changed and they weren't necessarily great for it, but Star Wars for me is always going to be a staple of my life and I absolutely love it. And I can't wait to sit down. My wife has never seen them. I want to sit down and like have her watch them with me, and she better love them, or I'm just saying, Val, there might be a divorce in your future if you don't love them. And it's just Star Wars for me. And I got to stop bringing this up, but it was something. It was so important for me and my brother and my mom because it was just the three of us when we were younger. So I was Luke Skywalker, my brother was Han Solo, and I was my mom was Leia, and it was just we had that. So when we went to go see, my mom and I went to go see the Episode 7, and it was a little bittersweet. But still, there were those moments where you're like, Star Wars can just enthrall you, pull you back in, and you can forget about everything else for a while. And that's why that's my very brief. I don't want to go on too long. I figure I'm going to be talking the most right now today. So Star Wars, that's what it is for me. It's great. It's so great. It's better than Batman. It's better than the Green Lantern. It's better than Superman, X-Men. It's Star Wars is great, and I'm gonna Cardwiz, tell us about Star Wars. Take us through your Star Wars.
My Star Wars history is not nearly as personal as anyone's. I was just a sort of a casual fan. I have a very distinct memory of as a 4 or 5 year old child in my room with my little 9-inch television, which I had just gotten my parents had just connected the cable to, just flipping through the 10 channels I had, just stumbling upon TBS, who were showing this movie that was in space. There was a space battle going on with ships and lasers, and at the end there was an explosion and some guy named Porkins. Oh no, Porkins! Oh, poor Porkins. I always felt so bad about him.
Moment of silence for Porkins.
Rest in peace.
He smelled like bacon.
Watching that scene and just being completely enthralled as a child, nothing that was not a cartoon had ever done for me at the time. Well, it was kind of like a cartoon with all the lasers and everything going on. So big and so otherworldly. I'd never seen anything like that before. And growing up over the couple of years, I had heard the name Star Wars before, but never associated it with anything. And then when I was around 8 or 9, my parents got one of the re-releases of the VHS. It was still in the VHS days. And I remember just deciding one day to sit down to watch it, see what the heck this movie was. And the start of this epic movie began, and it was Leonard Maltin interviewing George Lucas for 10 minutes or something like that. And I sat down and watched that entire interview and was like, "What? This is the weird trailer. What's going on? I don't understand." And then the movie started, and it was amazing. I loved Star Wars: A New Hope. That is my favorite Star Wars movie. I could watch Star Wars: A New Hope 1,000 times. That is a pretty much about as close to a perfect rewatchable movie as it gets. I like most of the other movies, but I don't know how many of those I would rewatch 1,000 times. A New Hope I will watch 1,000 times, no matter what. I watched Empire Strikes Back, didn't like it as much. Then I watched Return of the Jedi. I like parts of it, including that epic final scene. I watched those VHSs maybe 100 times. I loved it so much. I would eventually see Episode 1 in theaters. Loved it. Got the VHS. That was actually the very last VHS I owned, Star Wars Episode 1. I saw Episode 2 in theaters. Despised it with just about every fiber of my being. Didn't even see episode 3 in theaters. I waited till that one was on DVD before I saw it, but I did eventually see it, and I really, really liked it. Book-wise, I didn't really read adult books as a child. When I was probably 12 or 13, around when episode 1 came out, I read the Scholastic prequel series, which was Obi-Wan becoming Qui-Gon's Padawan, and that was one of my favorite series. I would love to see a mature take on that. I would like to see those stories rewritten with not preteens in mind, because I remember loving those as a child, but I'm sure if I reread those today, I would probably look down on them a little bit, but they were special.
I just want to show you guys something real quick. My original copy of Empire Strikes Back.
Sorry for you audio listeners.
And my original copy of Return of the Jedi.
He's showing us his original VHS tapes, which
are very dirty looking.
Yeah. They're very dirty. They're worn as hell because I watched them so much. I'm not sure they would ever play again. I don't have the original covers because I didn't take care of that stuff. I'm not really someone who bags everything. But I just looked over. I was like, oh yeah, I have those. Those are treasured items in my household.
Those Scholastic books were the only books I ever read of Star Wars. Growing up with video games, the only video games I played are some of my favorite video games of all time. The Rogue series for the N64 and the GameCube. Those are some of the best games. Those are some of the best starfighting games. But we've never had another one since the freaking GameCube. It seems like it'd be so easy to do. They would just re-release the same levels, just we're going to fight on the Death Star again. Oh, we're going to fight over Endor again. Just we're going to fight on Hoth for the 1,000th time. I would still buy it if they just did it, just a game focused on the Rogue style with the starfighting. That was so much fun, so good. I love those games so much. And I didn't really do much Star Wars after that. I didn't watch the Cartoon Network show. I watched episode 7 and I've seen Rogue One, and I liked them both well enough. They didn't hold the same magic that A New Hope did for me, but A New Hope is just so far above everything else Star Wars in my mind that I don't think anything else will ever approach the magic of that movie to me. So, Ordo, how has your Star Wars experience begun, and how do you feel about it?
I love Star Wars. I'm not as hardcore as Bodyguard, obviously, but my experience is kind of weird with it because I can't think of any ages or any time where I didn't know what Star Wars was. Because where I lived, I would go to this Walmart all the time. I would look for the Power Ranger toys or the X-Men toys or whatever, but the toys that always took up the largest section were Star Wars toys. And I never owned any of those because those toys were $6.96, but they were really small and didn't have as much articulation as say a Power Ranger or an X-Men toy did. So I always looked past them, but I always sort of, I guess because of the tropes, I am your father and stuff like that, I always knew what Star Wars was. And then I was at my cousin's grandmother's house, and this is when I guess the prequels had been announced or whatever, and they were showing each Star Wars episode back to back to back. And I just sat there, I watched them, and I think they did this for 2 or 3 weeks in a row, and every single time I watched them. And I fell in love because I finally had context for, Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker and, all the other characters that are in there. But then I really got invested when I played 2004's Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2. And it talks about the differences between the light side and the dark side and how there's there's gray. And the game references is a lot of the previous game, the first game, which I never played. And then after I played KOTOR 2, because it talks about one of the game's characters, Revan, I went back and played the first game, and I fell in love with that game because it's more of a good versus evil story, and you can choose whether you want to go light side or dark side, and I've played both of those games a multitude of times, and they're actually where I fell in love with the series more than any of the movies ever did. Far as actually seeing the other movies, I've seen the prequels. I don't care for 2. I watched 3 in the movie theater, and that was a insane moment. I'll talk about that in a second. I've seen the Star Wars Clone Wars cartoon. I've seen Episode 7. And I've not watched like Rebels or anything else. But if I had to pick my favorite Star Wars movie, it'd probably be Empire Strikes Back, because the bad guys win. I'm someone who kind of like cheers for the bad guys so they can be defeated later on. And the fact that they ultimately win, it really sets up Return of the Jedi, which Return of the Jedi I'm not a big fan of because of all the Ewok stuff. It did not click with me. But the psychology between Luke and Vader and Sidious, it's great. But
you're wrong about Return of the Jedi. It is the best movie in the saga. All right, I'm just going to tell you this right now: the dynamics between Luke Skywalker, as a child who did not have a father growing up for a long time, having I can identify with Luke Skywalker the most, and his conflict, the conflict he had with Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker. It just really appealed to me, and I love sword fighting. So lightsabers, yeah.
That Return of the Jedi does, like, I will probably say the Duel of the Fates is my favorite lightsaber fight, but I'd probably say Return of the Jedi is the best one because that scene builds up so much tension so well. Just one of the best sword fight that has ever been put on film. Beautiful build up.
I mean, I just gotta say too, we also get in that movie, what is his name? Ordo, the Emperor. What's the actor's name?
Is it Ian McDermott?
Ian McKellen.
Yeah, Ian McKellen.
Not Ian McKellen. That is Gandalf.
That's Gandalf.
I'd love for Gandalf to be the Emperor. That'd be awesome.
I mean,
Ian McDermott is the Emperor. No one else could be him.
Gandalf.
Ian McDermott. Ian McDermott spawned the father of a billion memes at this point. But his performance is so low key and so insidious. See what I did there?
Yeah.
It's so great. And the fact that they brought him back, I remember him being like, "Oh, I didn't think I was going to be cast as Palpatine when they did the prequels." And he's like, "Oh, this is fun." You see how much fun he has, especially in Revenge of the Sith. And again, guys, there are no bad Star Wars movies, except, Episode 7's kind of bad. And I haven't seen Rogue One. It's just like, "Oh, you threatening me, Master Jedi? Then it's treason." Oh, shit! And I mean, I was just like, I saw that in midnight premiere. It was my brother, my father, my mom, and I. And oh my God, I had to go to school the next day. Guys, Star Wars! It exists! It's great! I mean, I've played so many of the video games, the Super Star Wars games, which, bullshit. Those are not easy games. They're not fun either. I played the Jedi Knight, Dark Forces games. I played KOTOR 1. I haven't played KOTOR 2. I love the Old Republic, though. I wish it was on Xbox One. Microsoft, make that happen. I've played TIE Fighter. I've played X-Wing. I played Rogue Squadron, like you mentioned. Such a great game.
Let me ask you something, though. When someone says, "What is Star Wars?" and your mind starts thinking, "Oh, it's the lightsaber, this and that," but what is the absolute moment that sticks out in your mind? For me, it's that scene, and it's very subtle, but Luke Skywalker walks out, and he looks upon Tatooine and its two suns, and you hear the son, you hear the song go da 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 da, and it's so subtle, but you feel it.
It is. You are 100% right. That's exactly what I was going to say. It's the first when you said, "What is Star Wars?" I was seeing Luke Skywalker standing on Tatooine on his uncle's moisture farm and then looking out at the twin suns of Tatooine. It's the exact moment that movie hooked everyone.
I was going to actually say something different. For me, it was the Death Star trench run. When I think of that scene, that's what I think of when I think first thing I thought of.
The Death Star trench run is one of the most iconic, probably the greatest sequence that they filmed in Star Wars. And trust me, I'm someone that's 100% invested in the Jedi part. I'm not as invested in the actual war of the Star Wars. But You are right. The Death Star trench run, when you're young, it just captures your imagination because you've never, ever seen anything like that. It's so exciting. It's like lasers, 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 death, death, death. Your heroes, Luke's best friend, Biggs, Darklighter, has been killed. Holy crap. And it's just like, it invaders there, and like Luke's all by himself, and then you have Han flying in on the Millennium Falcon, was like, Yahoo! Do it, kid. And it's like, yeah, do it, Luke. And he's like, use the Force. Obi-Wan's like that, and it's just like, and it's just like, you're like, Leia's just like, I'm gonna die if this farm boy doesn't do this. And she's like, oh, he did it. I'll probably hook up with him later. We learn that's not okay.
Oh no!
Space Alabama.
So, I think you're right, though. I mean, for someone like Kirk, it is about the spectacle. Someone for Godfather and I, it is more about the quiet moments like that. And I think just a shout out to John Williams for giving us just the best movie soundtrack of all time. Mm-hmm. Fox wanted that soundtrack to be disco.
Wow.
Oh, that would have been so good.
Oh my God. It would have been. There are disco mixes of that music too, and they are awful. John Williams, by the way, has never watched Star Wars.
Really?
He has never watched it.
He doesn't want the nerd to rub off on him.
He is a hipster.
That is crazy. Well, I don't know. Sometimes you don't like viewing or listening to your own work, no matter what it is.
I still haven't listened to the first episode of the podcast yet.
Uh-huh.
Oh, it's terrible. And it'll only get worse.
Mm-hmm.
So
let's stick around.
Yeah, stick around, definitely. It'll be a fun disaster. Like the Hindenburg. I don't want to say Heisenberg.
Say my name.
So, for me, the thing that's kept me in Star Wars, though, is Luke Skywalker, Cal Katarn, so many characters. Jason Solo, Jaina Solo. It's Mara Jade Skywalker, Ben Skywalker. It's Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's the Jedi. The Jedi are just so awesome. They are space wizard knights. They have laser swords that we call lightsabers. They can manipulate their surroundings with only their mind. And I mean, it's incredible. The expanded universe, the original expanded universe of Star Wars, expanded on it so much. Right now, there's not really a lot, and it kind of looks like they're going to be killing off the Jedi to be doing this freaking, like, basically they're rebooting Star Wars, everyone. It's a soft reboot. They're like, we don't like what George Lucas did, so we're just going to kind of throw everything away and do it our own way. But, hey, whatever. I don't care. I still have the old stuff. I can still enjoy the old stuff. And I'll still check out Star Wars stuff. But, I mean, we're not here to trash Disney for all their terrible things that they do.
No matter what happens, we'll still have our imaginations. Like, I still have very vivid memories of running around in my backyard, hanging out with the Power Rangers, Big Bad Beetleborgs, as I wielded a giant gun with a Bayonetta lightsaber at the end of it, and making up my own crazy, insane adventures with that thing, turning all the Beetleborgs into Megazord and fusing them with the Millennium Falcon into one giant robot, one glorious giant robot. Why do I not have that good imagination anymore?
Oh my God. It's like Star Wars, you're right. It's all about the imagination. We were all Jedi, guys. We all did it.
Yeah.
We made we fought Darth Vader.
We all got in trouble.
Ordos. Yeah, we all got in trouble. We all went through our phase, probably. I don't know, but you're like, oh, I'm going to be Han Solo. Then you're like, no, screw that. I don't want to be the rogue. I want to be the hero.
I still remember seeing the trailer for Episode 1 and having my mind blown so far wide open when you see Darth Maul pull out the lightsaber, one end, pew, and the other end also has a lightsaber in it. Oh my God! How do you come up with that?
See, I know what you're saying, but in Tales of the Jedi, Exar Kun, guys, I don't know how to pronounce these things all the way, so just deal with me. This is what I know. Exar Kun did that, so I was like, oh yeah, they stole that. So,
yeah, it is Exar Kun. He's mentioned several times in Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah. So, I mean, he did it first. I'm just saying. George borrowed from something that someone else built up. And that's the one thing I liked about George Lucas is, and listen, let's just talk about George Lucas real quick. The guy created the original trilogy. Well, he created everything. He oversaw everything. And people like to trash him over the prequels. That's not his fault. It is the fault of all his friends. George is like, I want to film the battle scenes. I'm not good at the talky stuff. He asked Steven Spielberg. He asked the guy that did The Godfather, Francis Ford Coppola. He asked a bunch of guys, like, hey guys, can you direct this stuff for me? And he's like, they're like, no man, it's your vision. It's time for you to put your stuff up there. And from what I understand in interviews, they do like what George put up there because they know George. So it's like they're seeing their friend's vision finally up there. And people are like, oh man, it's about politics. That's what started the Star Wars. Well, yeah, that's life. It's good and evil still. You know, Darth Sidious did commit massive genocide to take over the universe, and he used political games to make it happen. That's how it happens. This is not like a fantasy story where dragons come in.
I think the problem with it is that if you like listen to them actually say the lines on screen and close your eyes, it sounds like all that stuff would be better in like a book format.
I'm not gonna lie, and I'm not gonna say that you're wrong. And again, it's people telling George Lucas that his original vision didn't need to be edited. No, he did need some editing. He needed help.
I completely understand, and I agree with having it all be about politics and how that's how a lot of these things start. But going back to what we were sort of talking about earlier, when we're talking about imagination, running around pretending to be a Jedi as a kid, part of that imagination, part of that joy was not the Trade Federation. I understand it, and I like Episode 1. I like that is how it builds up, because that's how wars build up. But the imagination, the people that captures people's hearts, when they go into Episode 1 and they see that scroll start, and all of a sudden, like some of the first parts are, the Trade Federation is doing a blockade right now. It's just like, what?
I know so people put their expectations too high because it was a more subtle political aspect. And again, what he needed was a couple edits. And no one was... It seems like people weren't willing to help him. And that's part of the problem. Is that he needed someone to step in. And like they have the Star Wars committee right now. I mean, whatever about them. But, you know, George Lucas probably needed something like that to help him filter out some of his ideas. Because, yeah, you could have done it differently. You could have kept every single aspect of the prequel trilogy and made it all a tighter, more cohesive thing. Part of that would have been keeping Liam Neeson around as Qui-Gon Jinn. And
let me kind of build off that. It felt like when you go through the Star Wars movies, the original trilogy, it's Luke, Han, Leia, Vader, C-3PO, and R2-D2. And those are like your main cast of characters.
Chewie.
I mean, yeah. Chewbacca. Don't leave him out.
Look, he didn't even get a medal. He didn't do anything.
What about Lando?
I don't like Lando. He's a black guy with a cape.
No, that's an opera cape, okay? Get it right. It's an opera cape.
Look at all the costume designs, and it's just like, oh, there's Lando. He's a guy with a cape. Okay. Anyway.
I mean, Han is a guy with a vest.
It still looks believable. It doesn't look stupid.
What's wrong with capes?
How dare you say capes are stupid?
Capes are not stupid. Lando is stupid with his cape.
Okay, good. Okay, as long as we're clear on that.
Capes are great.
I thought we were about to have a fight.
But you know, like there's a central cast of characters, right, in the original trilogy, and it kind of adds, you know, a couple people like Lando and others. But go back to Episode 1. The core cast kind of changes through the entire thing, rather than sticking with like a core group that you kind of build on their story. So I think you had like too many characters here and there.
People like to blame Jar Jar Binks for a lot. It's like, guys, get off of it. We're adults now. Jar Jar Binks was there for kids, and like, you know, I mean, whatever. He's not terrible. He's annoying, but I've seen worse. And you're right in that aspect. Is that they needed, if they had kept Qui-Gon alive at least through Episode 2, they would have been able to build a little bit more with Anakin and Obi-Wan a little bit. And I know a lot of people think that Obi-Wan should have romanced Padme. I don't see that at all. I don't think that was the way to have gone, because then you're like, oh, I don't like the fact that Anakin Skywalker is just like, I'm in love with this girl and I became a bad guy. You'd rather it was because he was jealous of the fact that Obi-Wan and Padme were together. And then people were like, oh, he could have used the dark side to manipulate her and force her to love him. Guys, that's rape.
Yeah.
We don't need to be injecting rape into the saga. That's
Well, there is the fan theory that is what is happening throughout episode 2.
Listen, fan theories are trash.
You don't know about my headcanons with my quadruple bladed lightsabers, man.
It's there's a certain point where you need to step back and be like, at the end of the day, I know I'm very passionate about this. It is still just movies, and they're not bad movies. I mean, I understand the criticism for especially Attack of the Clones, because there are a lot of weak points, but at the end of the day, they are still movies. They're not terrible movies. People are trying their hardest at times. Paul Walker should have been cast as Anakin Skywalker, I feel. Out of the casting choices I've seen, he would have been the best. And some people say Leonardo DiCaprio, but I don't think he could have given the right performance.
Here's the casting decision. Anyone but Hayden Christensen.
I mean, no, there are worse actors than Hayden Christensen. Again, it was a script that needed polish, and they needed a director who knew how to work with people. Again, look at the battle scenes. George Lucas can direct the hell out of those. But it's the interpersonal stuff he's just not as good with.
Yeah.
By the way, he married a super hot lady after he got rich.
Let me kind of take it back a little bit, because you mentioned having Qui-Gon Jinn around for the second movie. When you kind of think about what's his name? Dooku, because Dooku was the master of Qui-Gon, and then Qui-Gon trained Obi-Wan. So there's that connection there too.
Yeah, it would have helped. Honestly, if I could go through my rewrite of this, and what it basically involves is it brings Jango Fett into the fold a lot longer, keeps him till the end of the prequel trilogy as this threat. It adds Shmi Skywalker's in there a little bit longer too, and it's a larger cast. And it's not necessarily you need a smaller cast like you were saying earlier, but you need just a bit more focus, a bit more legacy to build off of. Because when you sat down at the Phantom Menace, you knew what Episode 3 was you knew what was happening. We all knew how this was going to end, and you should have built off that a little bit more. But again, when you don't have someone editing you, I mean, you come up with crap. I've edited my book 7 times before I'm actually at a place where I'm like, okay, because I needed people to tell me this sucks, and it still sucks, but it'll be fine. It'll be fine.
I'm trying to think of it is crazy to think about stuff like that, like how things could have gone and how they ended up going. I mean, and then again, we don't really know. I mean, with editing, maybe it would have ended up worse.
Who knows what ended up on that cutting room floor? We don't have access to that. Maybe it would have made it better. Probably would have made it 10 times worse. Who knows?
According to one of the producers, the beginning of Revenge of the Sith lasted for 2 hours. I would have loved to have seen that. Give me a director's cut of The Phantom Menace and Attack the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. I will watch them. I will give you all the monies. I don't care. If Lord of the Rings can be 12 freaking hours, then so can the prequel trilogy.
12 glorious, beautifully
I
shot.
don't like Lord of the Rings.
I love Lord of the Rings. I have those extended editions. I watch them at least once a year.
And Star Wars, the movies are just the movies are great. I even like the Ewok specials, guys. I don't hate Ewoks. I don't get the hate. Should it have been Wookiees? Yeah, it should have. But history is what it is. And anyone being like, oh, primitive beings cannot defeat a superior military force. Tell that to history.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I saw that movie, Zulu.
Those 13 colonies will never get anywhere.
So the criticisms for Star Wars are founded and unfounded. I know right now people are like, oh, Jar Jar Binks was the true villain all along. It might make sense. I've not really looked into it because I think fan theories are trash because you are garbage people. But Star Wars, the way it is right now, it is beautiful, and it's a song basically to the universe, and like that's why I love these expanded novels so much, because it takes the characters that we love, Luke and Han and Leia, and we expand on them so much. And Disney made the choice to toss all that away to make a more coherent storyline. That's good. I like coherent storylines. But then they're like, we're just going to leave this, 30-year gap, and we'll kind of fill it in eventually. But we broke up Luke and Han. I mean, we broke up the whole band. Leia is no longer with Han. Luke is gone. And then we're bringing in these new characters. And I just want to put this out here. I'm not saying Rey is a Mary Sue, but her character evolution in that movie makes no sense, because she's straight up evil. And the thing she's doing is bad. And she went from basically, I don't have anything special about me, to being, I'm OP. And that movie straight up from the very first scene set up Finn versus Kylo. That's your conflict. They set that up from the beginning because they sense something. They show that there's something between these two guys. And in the end, Finn gets paralyzed. Rey comes in. It was a bad lightsaber fight, guys. It just was. It's not a terrible movie. It's not a terrible movie. There's a lot of bad decisions in it. And J.J. Abrams cannot make an original movie to save his life, because that is just a new hope. They literally say it's like the Death Star, but bigger. What? Are you? I will take midichlorians or whatever over. It's like the Death Star, but bigger. We destroyed the Senate to basically put us back into the stupid Civil War. And I hate the fact that it's like after the Empire died in Return of the Empire, the Imperials just kind of folded over, and now we have the First Order, which is even more Nazi-like. And the strongest character for me is Finn, because I was immediately invested in that. Kid's got crazy charisma, and I'm 100% invested in this guy. But then I'm not against Rey. I'm not saying, oh, girls can't beat the heroes. Princess Leia was the freaking hero. Mara Jade is one of the greatest novel characters ever. I love her. I just don't like how Rey was handled. And then being like, Daniel Craig's got a cameo. Tom Hardy's going to have a cameo. Simon Pegg had a cameo. What? That's not what Star Wars is. It's cheap. It's money. Like, people are like, oh, George Lucas only cared about money. Really? Because he wanted to give this to his kids and they didn't want it. So he sold it to Disney because he at least knew them. He didn't want to sell it to Fox, the actual evil empire. And now Disney's just like, we're going to release a new Star Wars movie every year. We, for some reason, have the Han Solo origin story coming out, and I don't get that at all, because we could have an Obi-Wan Western. That would be epic.
Based off that book?
That book would be great. Have you read it?
I haven't. I had it in my hands, and I was just like, man, I still have 3 other Star Wars books to read.
It's so good. It's a fast read. It's a super fast read. Zack Snyder wants to make a 7 Samurai Jedi movie. Say what you will about Zack Snyder, but he makes incredible action scenes. If you get him just to the plot to have the last 45 minutes to an hour and 25-minute battle, I promise you're going to see things you've never thought done with lightsabers.
The future of Star Wars, I don't feel bleak about it, but after seeing Episode 7 and Rogue One, it's just like, this is okay. I feel like from now on, the Star Wars movies are all going to be okay at worst. We're going to get a bunch of 6 or 7 out of 10s, and they're going to be good moments, but from now on, I don't think I will go back and rewatch them 1,000 times like I had the previous movies.
I really feel like it's going to be the lowest common denominator when it comes to writing and everything. Keep it simple, keep it safe. It's just going to be as possible. And I swear, if they kill Luke Skywalker in this next episode, Episode 8, I will riot. And do not look at these eyes. I am not joking. I will riot. I will punch Cardwiz in the face.
He's going to. I know he is.
It's obviously Disney. Kathleen Kennedy's like, I want to do my version of Star Wars. So she's doing her version of Star Wars. Kathleen, come up with your own crap and let the saga be the saga.
It's a lot of copy and pasting, honestly. Like, I don't know whether it was I was speaking to you or I looked up on my own, but I didn't realize that Jakun, a desert planet, was not Tatooine, another desert planet. And a lot of it just copy and paste.
I told you that. Yeah, I remember that conversation. I was like, yeah, that's not Tatooine. You're like, what? And it's just like, it's not necessary, but they wanted to put it on there. And they're like, Rey needs to have, like, first of all, Star Wars has never been about the mystery. It's not a mystery, but they're like, who's Rey's parents? What happened at the Jedi Temple? Who is this mysterious bald guy? It's like, these are not things about Star Wars. Who cares? Tell me the story. Don't keep me guessing. I don't need 2 years of fan theories. And they're like, oh, we might just stop telling stories about the Skywalkers. The whole point of Star Wars is the Skywalkers. The Star Wars is not about the trench run, and it's not about the Battle of Kashyyyk. It is about the Jedi. That is the original thing about Star Wars. That's what gives it its if you took out all the mysticism of Star Wars, you'd have a great war saga, but it wouldn't be the phenomenon that it is. No one dreamed of, like, when you're a little kid, you wanted the lightsaber more than anything. I know someone's gonna be out there like, oh no, I wanted to be Han Solo. I don't care. I'm not talking to you.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way because a lot of people were just like, man, Han Solo, he's so great. I'm just like, for me personally, I didn't like him until episode 7 and he died, and I was just like, okay, thank you, we can stop looking at Han Solo now. I never got Han Solo because he's just the guy with the gun. He's not the guy with the mystic powers and the sword. For
me, he was always, he's the side character. He's the cool side character, but he's the side character. He's not who it's about. Star Wars episodes 1 through 6 are family drama. That is what it is, and that's what made those movies special, partially.
Yeah, I mean...
That's why Luke, I am your father, or whatever that line is exactly, is such a big deal. It's about family.
I am your father. That's not true. That's it. Sorry, I'm not going to go into this. It's I want to see where they're taking Rey, and if they're deciding to, like, they are laying the groundwork for the gray Jedi-ness. Like, there is no light side or dark side. There's only the Force, which is cool if you keep all the other elements as well. In my mind, I didn't actually write out a fan fiction, but I rewrote how I would have done episode 7, and it was a lot more Jedi heavy, and it kept all the same characters. It made sense of Rey in my mind, at least, and it still kept her being this cool, powerful character. But it was different enough that it wasn't just, hey, J.J. Abrams really liked A New Hope, just like how he liked Star Trek. So, by the way, Star Trek 09, that is A New Hope. Watch it. It's A New Hope.
That's why I like that movie so much. It's great.
Yeah, because Star Wars is a great movie, but J.J. Abrams cannot make an original movie for the life of him. He is an uninspired hack, and I'm not really in love with anything that he is hands-on with.
You mentioned Grey Jedi. For those that aren't really savvy about it, a Grey Jedi is someone who doesn't really walk the light, but they don't walk the dark either. They tend to go on this middle path, and they're not really with the Jedi Council, but they're not out like just mass murdering people like maybe a Sith would.
Wasn't that what Mace Windu was?
Mace, they kind of talked about that, but no, officially he was a light Jedi. The idea of a gray Jedi really came to life in the Knights of the Old Republic saga with what's his name?
Jolie Bindo.
Yeah,
and the sequels, Kreia.
Yeah, so like it's the gray Jedi. They walk the line, and there are Jedi Masters in the Order who kind of walk the line as well. But Mace Windu is kind of like less of a. He is basically the guy who's almost in the dark side. His lightsaber style is vapid, and it channels the dark side in a way that doesn't make him super evil. That's what that is for him. And I mean,
That list.
Again, huh?
You remember that list you showed me? That's where I was going with this. Of the top, was like top 15 or top 10 gray Jedi.
Yeah, yeah.
They had this list, and it was listing everyone from like expanded universe content to the games, like Jolie Bender, like we mentioned. But at number 1, they had Rey, and it's just like she's not anything.
She's not a Jedi yet.
Yeah, she's not trained for anything.
She's kind of Force sensitive. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't put Kyle Katarn on that list. It's like, what is wrong with you?
And
that
again,
guy.
They didn't put Kreia either.
Yeah. They. Again, Rey is not a terrible character. She's written badly, and they're like, "Oh, it's a mystery," and it's like, "Oh, I'm not here for mysteries."
With Rey, it's just like after watching episode 7, it's just like, I want to like you. I want to be cool with all the overpowered things you're doing. I need to see where it's going first, or I need to see what was on the cutting room floor, because it's just like, we have not seen nearly enough pieces with the puzzle for her, and that. Like you were just saying, there's so much mystery to her. There's almost nothing to her at this point.
She's just so powerful that we really don't need any other character, because she can take care of it.
The problem is that she can just do things. Oh, she's never flown a ship before, but here's her first time in a ship. Now she can do it. She's never wielded a lightsaber before. Now she can take on Kylo with his lightsaber.
And Kylo is someone that we know had been trained by Luke. People are like, "Oh, he was injured." You know what? Stop making your excuses. He was a Jedi,
trained by Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, I mean,
who in turn was trained by Yoda
and Obi-Wan.
Yeah, and Obi-Wan. And it's like, there's no reason for Kylo to, one, be that weak against someone who is, not really adept at their Force powers. And 2, building a shoddy lightsaber. Like, the reason why it has those things coming off of it is because his lightsaber crystals are cracked in that blade.
Yeah, and, he's a guy who throws a hissy fit. Really? That's the villain we're going? I know they're going to make Kylo redeem himself. Like, I can honestly see Episode 8 making Kylo come to the light side and Rey going to the dark side and Kylo having to bring her to like a middle ground. I honestly can see it going that way, and I don't want that. I think that's crappy story writing. And again, I'm not a published writer. Maybe my idea of storytelling is bad, but my wife likes my ideas. And my mommy thinks I'm special.
I don't like Kylo. I mean, like, he did do the cool thing with, like, the dude shooting the blaster bolt at him and him stopping it, and then it just sat there for, like, 10 minutes. That was cool. But then he took off the mask. I'm just like, can you put it back on?
It's like Bane said, no one cared who I was till I put on the mask. I feel the same way about Kylo. When you took it off, by the way, that mask stolen from Knights of the Old Republic. That's Revan's mask.
Yeah, that's almost exactly like his mask.
And it's just like right now, like they changed lightsaber crystals too, to where it's not like the type of crystal. It's like it changes color based off your like dark side energy, and it's like Cardwiss said he liked it. Cardwiss is wrong though. It's stupid. That's stupid. I absolutely hate that.
Well, the guidebook for Episode 7 says that the crystals in there are cracked or broken or whatever it is.
That's why the things are coming out to the side, but it being red, that's just a side effect of being a dark side user. Instead, like in the old expanded universe, they used artificial crystals. That's why they were red. You didn't find red naturally, like you would find green or blue or yellow, gold, orange, and purple. So my question is, I mean, if we're talking about if it's your Force, why is Mace Windu's lightsaber purple?
Because he's a...
I mean, no one's going to say it, but that's what it is.
A badass mother, and it's on his lightsaber, so I don't know.
It is on his lightsaber. I mean, Sam Jackson, guys, just fantastic as Mace Windu. Absolutely killed it. The guy was great.
He is so much fun to watch.
He is so much fun to watch. He is so old. Guys, he is old. We're going to lose him soon.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah.
We probably got he yells so much. I have to feel like his heart's not doing great.
We'll get more Tarantino movies out of him, though. They'll be okay.
Is
Yeah.
Tarantino making any more movies?
Probably. I don't know. I have not heard of like Hateful Eight was his last one or anything. So
Hey, guys, I hate Quentin Tarantino. He's made 3 good movies. So
I really like Quentin Tarantino, although I still haven't seen Hateful Eight.
Is there a side story where Mace survived that attack, or was that something I just thought up?
that's fan fiction.
Fan fiction.
Okay.
That's the fan fiction theory that he's actually Snoke.
Oh god, no!
That
I
is
didn't
one
read anything
theory.
like that. I didn't read anything like that. I read that like basically he survived, but like he still only has one arm. He has like an eye patch or something, and then like he kind of lives in the slums.
Yeah, that's a fan theory that because they didn't want him to die, but
That's also the story of the Jedi Master from Force Unleashed.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that's right.
I mean, Mace Windu, though, for what there is a book of his I plan to read. Apparently, it's very akin to the Heart of Darkness, which is Apocalypse Now. For those who don't know, Mace Windu is a great character, and I do love him. But his death, he needs to die because that's what pushes Anakin from teetering to full on bad guy.
Yeah. Because I mean, you look through the films, and like there was definitely like some kind of like I don't know whether like I would say like a rivalry, but he and Anakin definitely had some sort of bond where there was like this like if Mace Windu says it, then I have to do it. Whereas other masters, he maybe have questioned things. From what
I think one thing I really want to point out as we're wrapping up here, a lot of people think this is actually a fan theory that I think is pretty cool. Mace Windu hates Anakin because Mace Windu thought he was the chosen one. And that's why he is so aggressive towards stopping Darth Sidious, because he's like, I'll fulfill the prophecy and I'm the chosen one.
fan theories are crap.
Yeah.
I'm a hypocrite.
They're trash except for the ones you like.
Yeah, exactly. That's the internet.
Well,
welcome
I mean,
to life.
Fan theories aren't bad as long as they make sense within the context of what you're talking about. Not, man, Mace Windu could secretly grow 8 arms if he wanted to. That's insane.
Yeah. So since we're tying things up here, guys, we all love Star Wars to different degrees. Obviously, some of us are obsessive and a little manic over it. But let's go ahead and rank all 7. We're gonna stick to the 7 core movies, the Skywalker saga. Let's go ahead and rank them, and I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start at number 7, which is The Force Awakens. It fits because it is Episode 7. Then I'm gonna go to Attack of the Clones, which I don't hate, but it is really flawed. There's a lot of bad acting in it, and it could have been tightened up a lot. It's very slow, too. That middle portion is really slow. And there wasn't a really great antagonist for it. And then if we go to number 5 position, I would say is easily going to be A Phantom Menace, which I really enjoy. But it is more of just an action movie than anything else. It doesn't really do a lot with what it has. Kind of like the first X-Men movie. And then at number 4, oh god, people are gonna get so pissed off about this. I'm gonna put A New Hope. Not that it's bad, but it's just I'm not like eager to rewatch it as some of the other ones because it's really light on the Jedi stuff. It does introduce it really well, but it's not as hardcore. Like the Obi-Wan Darth Vader confrontation is not the greatest thing ever filmed. Number 3 is going to be Revenge of the Sith. I loved it. I loved that movie. I had such great memories of watching it. I watched it with these guys. We all had a great time. Number 2 is going to be Empire Strikes Back, which is people are going to freak out about that. But I do like Empire Strikes Back, but I don't like the darkness of it as much. Some people love the darkness, but I'm going to have to go with my favorite Star Wars movie being Return of the Jedi, where Luke has this incredible confrontation with his father. We finally get to see Palpatine at his gross, saggy faceness. I love the space battle at the end. I love the stuff at Jabba's palace. That stuff's great. Leia, even though she's forced to wear this humiliating outfit, she still gets up and she kills Jabba the Hutt single-handedly. And it's great. And I Return of the Jedi. That for me, that is a perfect movie in my opinion. I can watch that. That's definitely my top 3 movies of all time.
For my rankings, personally, I would go with at number 7. Going to go with episode 2. I think that movie can just go rot for all I care. I do not like it. There are good scenes in it, but the scenes that are bad are so bad they are Spider-Man 3 levels of bad. I want them to go away and erase them from my memory. Number 6, episode 7. It was okay. Number 5, I'd probably go with, this is what annoys some people, I'm going to go with The Empire Strikes Back. I think that is a very slow movie that has not aged as well from a pacing standpoint. And while the Battle of Hoth is kind of cool and the lightsaber confrontation between Luke and Vader is okay, I think that the scenes in that are just kind of okay. Nothing is a 10 out of 10 for me that makes me want to rewatch that movie, in my opinion. Number 4, I'd probably go with episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. I enjoy it quite a bit. Great action. And number 3, I'm in the 1% of people who really, 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 really like this movie, Phantom Menace. I love watching that movie. I could watch it. It's like episode 4, New Hope. I could watch that 1,000 times over and still enjoy myself each time, even with Jar Jar. Jar Jar is annoying, but I don't have a hatred for him that the rest of the world has. For number 2, I'd probably go with Return of the Jedi. Return of the Jedi is great. That final fight scene, as was said before, is one of my favorite scenes in cinema with amazing build-up. And number 1, A New Hope. I love that movie 1,000 times over. Your perfect film. Odo, how do you feel about the 7?
Funnily enough, my rankings are almost the exact same as Bodyguards, except I put Empire Strikes Back because I'm the guy that likes the darkness. I mean, I said it, close to the opening. I like it because the good guys lose, and it helps us build towards. I almost said The Last Jedi, but you know,
it is building towards it in a sense.
Yeah, but yeah. I know it sounds kind of boring, but I mean that's how I feel too. But I would like to give a special mention to the Clone Wars cartoon.
Oh, definitely. Clone Wars is fantastic.
Actually, there's 2 Clone Wars cartoons. There's one done by Gendy Tarkovsky. That one's pretty good. And then there's the new one, which is like the CGI one. That one's also good.
Yeah, they really had a lot of creative freedom to do so. And the one thing that I liked is the showrunner, I cannot remember his name, Dave something. He was like, I like some of this expanded universe stuff, and since this is canon, I'm gonna just kind of start sneaking stuff in there. And he did the same thing with Star Wars Rebels, which I know you haven't checked that out yet, but it is worth checking out. And yeah, the cartoons really help. They really make the gap between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith
come together better,
and it's got some great lightsaber action. Really expands on like the Force and its nature and everything, and we get to see some really awesome stuff.
I will say that skip the movie that introduces that because it's not really that great, and it really forces Ahsoka on you. And then the first season's kind of rough, but once it hits season 2, you're good to go for the rest of it.
And they want to make an Ahsoka live action movie with Rosario Dawson, what the internet does, and I'm 100% okay with that. You might hear me mention Rosario Dawson often, audience. Her and Janina Gavankar are goddesses.
All right. Well, I have one final question for the both of you. You've seen the movies, and that's all you've seen. Give someone one piece of Star Wars thing that they should either read or check out. Bodyguard, what would you tell someone?
I would say
it can be games too.
Play Knights of the Old Republic as an introduction. I think that'd be a great way to really get into the deeper lore. I can't really suggest a book because they're all series. I mean, if you're a fan of the movies and stuff, Heir to the Throne, Heir to the Empire, by Timothy Zahn. It was basically that the Thrawn trilogy is basically episode 7, 8, 9. That's how a lot of people viewed it for a long time. It's super perfect. It's really good. So no, not Knights of the Old Republic. Then Heir to the Empire. That's a fantastic book.
And those are how many books are they? And are they easily available for people?
They're easily available. They just re-released them with these awful covers. After they introduced Thrawn into Star Wars Rebels, they're easily available. Definitely go get them. I mean, they're $7.99, guys. They're just there's 3 of the books. He's written more. He introduces Mara Jade, and just some great stuff there.
For me personally, I wouldn't go something that deep. I would just go something that just is slightly branching off of Star Wars, and it was mentioned earlier, Star Wars Rogue Squadron. Just a very slight branch off of some of the things going on. You get a little bit of interaction through just little dialogue quips with, I believe it's Wedge and a few of the other members of the Red Team. And
Rogue Squadron?
Whatever. Freaking nerd with your Star Wars. And I have to get everything.
Rogue Squadron.
You just get little interactions with those guys and go off on adventures with them. It's just a light little side story. It's quite nice and fun gameplay.
And those are the 2 games for the GameCube?
Well,
I believe there was only one on the GameCube. The others were on the N64. N64 had Rogue Squadron. It also had like the Naboo one, which was
Naboo
like a
Starfighter.
Yeah, that was also pretty good. And then there was the one on GameCube, which is probably the one if you could somehow get your hands on it. But it is a GameCube game, therefore it is almost impossible to find because Nintendo hates selling GameCube stuff.
Mm-hmm. For me, I would actually have to say Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. So the gameplay is somewhat...
It's like D&D.
It's
what it is.
It is. I mean, and it's available for the original Xbox. It's also backwards compatible for the Xbox 360, but it is more readily available on Steam. But unfortunately, it uses like these really weird. Even like I'm not a PC gamer, but I could deal with PC controls. But I played Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic on Steam for a little bit. I could not wrap my head around the controls. But Knights of the Old Republic 2 actually has full controller support, and it's also for Steam.
So this was episode 2 of Practically Nothing. We're not going to film an intro today because I think we kind of covered the bases here. So I'm hoping everyone's enjoying this. We're enjoying it. This is what we do. This is our lives. We're just those nerds who this is what we do. And when we get together in person, this is what we do. And eventually, yes, this summer we are going to film in person, guys. That's going to happen. We're going to do a live in-person podcast with special guest Val, because she's going to be there anyway, making noise. So, thank you for joining us this week. We hope you. I'm going to just go ahead and put this out here. Episode 3, guys, is going to be about Fire Emblem, featuring only Cardwiz and Ordo, because I don't know anything about Fire Emblem and I'm not that interested in it. So maybe Sled will join us then. Who knows? But I'm going to get everyone, let's do some plugs. You can follow me at Dr. Bodyguard on Twitter and on Instagram if you want to see me posting pictures of my cat. Cats. You will not see pictures of my wife often because she doesn't care for that. So don't ask. And that's how you can reach me. And coming soon, within the next year, you will be able to read a book. The title's still kind of in flux, but it's kind of like Running from the Hellhound by Nathaniel L.G. Hanley. Don't say it. Don't say it, Ordo. So, Mr. Cardwiz, plugs.
You can follow me on Twitter at KD Corley. You can probably attempt to send a friend bite over Xbox at Cardwiz, and maybe I'll reply to that if I feel like it. Probably not. If you happen to be in Mobile, Alabama from June 2nd to the 18th, 2017, for whatever reason, you can come see a production of Rock of Ages where I will be one of the leading characters, and it's going to be a very fun time, and I'm probably going to go work out so I'm in decent shape for that after this.
Yeah, he is a pretty good musical theater people. You can check out his stuff. You plug your YouTube.
I don't even remember what my YouTube is. I think it's Cardwiz 2K.
No, the YouTube, the Joe Jefferson YouTube.
Oh, Joe Jefferson. I don't even know what that is. Look up Joe Jefferson Players on YouTube. Actually, hopefully in the coming days, there will be our production of Much Ado About Nothing going up on YouTube, and I'm going to make these guys watch it at some point, and it's going to be fun.
Ordo?
Lastly, you can follow me at PlanOrdo on Twitter. You can also follow all of us at Practically Nothing, it's Prac Podcast, PracPodcast on Twitter, or you can email us at practicallynothingpodcast@gmail if you want to send us some messages. Maybe we'll read them sometime. Tell us what your Star Wars experience is.
And we will share that. Yeah, if you like, we're gonna make this as much of interactive as we can. And if you decide you want to roast us a little bit, okay, we'll read that too, probably.
Nothing's off limits. So,
well, I mean, Rule 34 is off limits. We don't need that.
Dang. And I guess, is that it for episode 2, fellas?
That's it.
All right. And we'll see you guys later.